Go ahead, Johnny.
Welcome everybody to Wrestling Memories episode 32, Divas Gone Wild. As always, I am your host, Johnny Sinizter. Welcome everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful day right here on the Colbo Show. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell icon because it's the only way YouTube's going to let you know that we're live. As always, tonight I have with me the leader of the Cold Bone crew, Mr. J.P.E. Baker, and the tattooed Mistress. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing good, doing good. Well, I'm doing good. I don't know how she's doing.
I'm just very tired.
Are you having a Pregger's Day?
I am indeed.
Well, she's just a whiny little turd because she can't drink as much caffeine as she used to. So.
Oh well, hey, you know what?
I coffee away from you entirely.
Good fucking luck with that. That's all I'm fucking saying.
I don't blame you one bit, Heather. My sympathies with you. I'll drink plenty of caffeine tonight for you. And also with us on the call, but he won't be here with us for very long, so you're going to get pretty much me and the JP and Heather tonight. But for right now, we have the Foulmouth Bobbitt on the call. What's going on, buddy?
Fuck the world. That is all.
Okay.
Okay, then. We don't have Trekapedia tonight. We sent him packing after the last episode. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't do anything like that. Trek is taking care of some business. I'm very sure he'll be joining us next week, hopefully. So be sure to send him some love, all that good stuff. So, as we stated at the beginning, this is all about the Divas. Pretty straightforward kind of stuff. Kind of how it's been for the last couple of episodes, that we've really kind of had these very straightforward episodes. This was more of a history lesson on where they started it in women's wrestling and to kind of progress to kind of what we see today to a certain extent. At the time, particularly in the 70s and 80s and very early 90s, women in wrestling were not really a thing. They were seen as kind of a special attraction. Mm-hmm. They weren't overly utilized because, frankly, and to, not to criticize, I mean, we are talking that these were this was the times that we lived in at that point, is that women's wrestling wasn't really desired to be seen. It was kind of seen as just this one-off thing where they only have about 5 minutes on the show.
As they said, it was like an attraction.
It was very much an attraction. You didn't really see a whole lot of it. Where we started to see the shift is with WWE, of course WWF at the time, sort of transitioning to where they didn't want women's wrestling, but they wanted to give something for the women to do. And so they started the sort of valet, the manager gimmick. And the woman that kind of spearheaded this, the one that became to the most prominent, was Miss Elizabeth, as you know, the wife of Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yep.
And it really, she gained in popularity by just being, she was a beautiful woman, very classy, something very different from what people were used to seeing at the time, and with the women. Right. Now, I'm going to lead into this first question. Given that the times that people were living in then, was it a good idea for them to go with the valet manager role with Miss Elizabeth, or did they really need to try and go and push the wrestling aspect of it first? Or do you think, in hindsight, that really that's how it needed to progress to get people used to the idea?
I'm going to say this. We make fun of the women wrestling today. You should have seen it back then. Abso-fucking-lute fucking garbage. Dana Brooke is 10 times better than what Wendy Richter was. And she was the champion. So don't fucking at me when I say that, because if you go back and look, it was like watching, you see Dana Brooke, they would probably be like, holy shit, this is the best talent we've ever fucking seen.
Right.
I mean, she's nowhere compared to what we have today with the Sasha Banks and the fucking Charlottes and the Asukas, But then back then, they really didn't emphasize the wrestling aspect for the women.
So I just deducing what you're saying, you think it was good that they went that route with the valet manager to get people used to the idea of women being on the screen more?
Yes.
Okay. Bob, what about you?
I agree, because you gotta look what was going on at the time. Glow was probably the first organization to have all-female wrestling league. And if it wasn't for Glow, I don't think we'd have women's wrestling as we know it today. So a lot of credit goes to Glow, which WWE won't acknowledge that, but, that's for a different story.
I will say this about Glow. That's why WWE will probably never have women do their own fucking show, because of Glow. That was a shitty fucking show.
Heather, as being the only woman on the panel, what is your take on it?
I think they absolutely went the right track with showing them as the manager type, because it got them not only to be, yes, these are beautifully sexy women that are out there, but they also have a brain. They can tell these wrestlers what to do.
Right.
And they could also get in and be part of the action as well, which started getting them towards that, just, okay, you're not just a valet now you can also be a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think, and I see where Bobbitt's coming from, but what we have to remember what Glow was. During the time of Glow, this was very heavily during the feminist women have, you can do everything a man can do. And while Glow showed that women could wrestle, realistically, you can't give the credit to Glow, because realistically, the first true pioneer, when we talk about mainstream wrestling, was Miss Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. She was what brought the attention to the ring. And the one thing that I found funny about all this, and we're probably losing Bobbitt now, so if we don't see him again for tonight, send him some love. One thing I did notice is that, what I saw through this episode, especially WCW really dropped the ball on the women's side of things, because it seemed like they didn't really catch up to what was going on with the women until the very end of the war. And by then it was too little too late. So you have Miss Elizabeth, but Vince McMahon wanted to introduce and bring women more into the forefront and to showcase, and then this is when you have Medusa or Alundra Blaze, who was WWE's first women's champion. But they tried to revamp this and bring it back, and there was a very small pull. It didn't go over very well. And WCW at this time, of course, there wasn't anything that the women were doing that really brought WCW out. This was around the time of NWO. And Aaron Reed for subscribing for the 9,500 fucking time. And thank you.
If he was subscribed for the 9,500th time,
we'd be getting monetized.
We'd be getting monetized.
Right? I know. Aaron Reed, keep making accounts. No, I'm just kidding. So, this led to arguably one of the more memorable moments, I think, in wrestling history, is Alundra Blaze, of course, at this time was very frustrated with WWE because there really wasn't anything there for her. So she decided to jump ship. Boy, if she probably knew what she knew now. Oh, do you? I'll get to the moment here in a second, but I do want to ask this. Do you really think if Alundra Blaze knew or Medusa knew what she knows now, do you think she would have ever left WWE?
Well, considering she got her start in WCW, then jumped over to WWE, and then went back to WCW, she didn't learn her lesson the first time. She was dumb enough to actually go back to a company that failed in treating her properly the first time.
I think the reason she left is not because there was no competition. WCW threw more money than what open checkbook, man.
Yep.
So she took more money to do less. I mean, they did do like I think they did a 24 with her, where she wanted to be. Shut the fuck up. Where they wanted to be, you know, more. How do I explain this?
She wanted to be more competitive, and she wanted to be on the screen more. To give the women the chance to actually sit there and say, yes, we fucking can go like the men can.
Right.
However, she was never ever given that chance.
Plus, she was a little bit ahead of. You got to remember who came in. You know, after she left, who came in? You had your Ivories, you had your fucking Litas, you had your Molly Hollies came in.
Jacqueline.
And if she could have just held on just for a little longer,
she would have had that major competition that she also could have mentored because of the fact that she was part of the alumni.
Alundra Blaze is arguably, she really was a wrestler ahead of her time.
I think she could have carried. I think she could have carried the company. In fact, I will even go as far as to say this: I would have loved to have seen Alundra Blaze and Chyna go head to head.
Absolutely.
Oh, that would have been that would have been amazing. Well, speaking of Alundra Blaze, she was Alundra Blaze in WWE, but she was also Medusa in WCW.
And in Monster Trucks.
And in Monster Trucks. That's actually pretty cool, by the way.
Yes. I actually know her as a monster truck driver, so that's how I know most of this, actually.
So, Medusa arguably has one of the most memorable moments in WCW's history. She had the belt from WWE. She never lost the belt.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric Bischoff convinced her against her will to bring the belt onto live television. And the iconic moment that we all know is her dropping the belt into the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
This set off a chain of events that pretty much sparked that. This was the declaration of war.
Yep.
Or pretty much. So much so that it hurt Vince McMahon so much that he did not reintroduce the title for 3 years. Yep. He completely was done with women's wrestling at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And went back to the valet. Now, around this time, he brings in Sunny. And oh God, do I remember Sunny.
Most of us do.
Sunny was another valet, but she was taking part in these very soap opera type segments, these storylines. She was very much involved in a way that a valet or a manager hadn't been in the past. Getting to the point that she was the most downloaded woman on AOL when it became the internet started becoming a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
This is how popular this woman was. Also, we had the introduction of China. China to this day is still one of the most talked about women in professional wrestling.
Correct.
She was one of the only bodybuilders that was over 6 foot out of the women's division to show up and actually hold on to a legacy.
And the thing was, you had things like I can't ever remember the woman that was Goldust's valet.
Marlena.
Marlena. That was his wife in real life.
Real life. That was
right.
his first wife.
Okay.
Terry Reynolds is her real name.
So, around the time that these three really started becoming into prominence is when WWE started taking on the more racier, edgier product. And JBL, of all people, said something very, very interesting. And I actually kind of felt validated. Because he said something in that episode that is something that I've been saying since coming onto the Cole Bone Show. Society, they don't respond to they don't control what society does. They follow what society does. Yep. And at this time, the demographic was largely a male audience. Mm-hmm. You had your female fans, don't get me wrong, and it's even so true to this day that still the main demographic is males.
Yep.
That is the main that is the core audience of wrestling. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that the women's fan base hasn't grown over the years, but there's no denying that is what that's what the majority is. Yep. The majority of the people that watch wrestling were male.
Yep.
And still are.
So, when it came to China, I'm like, is this a dude? Shit, like, that's an awfully pretty dude.
Right.
Like, and then you realize that this was a woman that was doing stuff. She was taking on the men.
Yeah.
Something we hadn't seen before. So you never saw that at coming out of a woman. And it's why, like, me personally, and it'll lead into my question. Me personally, I always kind of get irritated with people that sit there and condemn the Attitude Era for its racy content. Even the ones that talk about it today, that, how could they allow that crap to go on back then? You don't understand.
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s. You had, and again, it goes back to the point that JBL said. Society wanted this type of product.
Yep.
They were, whether people, and Michael Cole even said something. Michael fucking Cole said something that really resonated in this episode. He goes, whether you agreed with it or not, people tuned in to watch. And especially in WWE's case, it was because there was a lot of dudes that wanted to see a lot of pretty women. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, it was fact. It goes back to the old adage that sex sold. So, my question for y'all is, could you see at that time that they were really trying to make women really a part of the show? Or is it what a lot of people say, that they were just exploiting them because they were women?
Is this a trick question? I'm just kidding. No,
it's a genuine question.
I know it is. I was being sarcastic. Look. What did they say in the episode? Sex sells, right?
Yep.
Right.
Sex gets views. Sex gets ratings. Even the women were saying it. What sells? Sex sells. And it does. I don't care. You look at any commercial. Like the fucking, what is it, the Hardee's commercial with the fucking naked lady. She's walking down the street.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what
Sex
you're talking
sells,
about.
man. Guys think of one thing. I'm going to fucking Hardee's. Maybe I'll get to see boobs there. I don't know. It's really weird how guys operate, people. For you women that don't know, or young men that don't understand women or whatever yet, I'm telling you. Lesson number
It never
one.
changes. Once them fucking balls drop, that's all you're thinking about.
Right.
Is the next time you're gonna fuck it.
So that's true, but it's how do I? Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just sex sells. Sex sells. I keep saying it.
I think, you know, of all the people in that episode, I think Trish Stratus actually said it best.
Yes.
She goes, I can come out in a bikini, and now I've got your attention. Now watch what I do.
Yes, exactly. And she did very good. She did very well for herself.
Heather, what do you think?
Do I wish they could have gone about it in a different way? Yes. However, I do understand entirely that men are visual creatures. So I'm not going to fault them for doing what they knew worked at the time. I'm glad they're doing things a little differently now with the women's division, of course. But with something like that, yes, it was exploitation of the woman. However, it was not only, it was a it was double promotion in a way. It promoted the business, but it also promoted the women.
I think the best way to describe it as consensual exploitation.
There we go.
I will say this real quick. For guys, to give you a better analogy, a lot of guys don't like to read. They use Playboy as a prime example.
Right.
Women would probably get a Playboy magazine to read the articles, literally. Guys get the magazine because of the visual. It's like a book. It's like any book. Just reading in general. WWE, the guys' division is the reading part. The women are the pictures. We got you. Now watch what we can do. That's what they were talking. That's what they did. They used the women to draw eyes in, and then they went from there.
And I think a lot of times people want to say, well, how dare these women, you know, they just use them to show off their bodies. What you don't, well, I don't think a lot of people realize that back then, a lot of the women even, and not necessarily in this episode, they did it, but in other documentaries, they have women, the most prominent women of that time, they were fine, they were happy with it. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I mean, there was a few things that happened later on down the line that were like, oh, okay, what the fuck? But they're like, we were allowed to show our bodies. You got to remember what society was like back then. It was very prudish, very, keep everything wholesome, keep everything, you know, don't try to offend nobody. You know, we got to keep it, you know, nice and clean. And the women didn't want that at that time.
Right.
And honestly, my thing, I think it's understandable why women would be upset about that time period. But what I took away from it is how much I actually respected a lot of these women.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what they did for the, I think that's what a lot of people that don't understand that time period. Yes, it was racy. Yes, women were coming out and having bra and panties matches and showing off bikinis and all this stuff. In fact, in one pay-per-view, Sable just had fucking body paint on. Okay? But at the same time, there was a lot of respect for these women.
Yes.
And I think and not to put any woman down, but I don't think women could really understand that, because that kind of sentiment can only come from a male perspective.
No, it could come from a woman's as well. I mean, I definitely appreciate the women for getting the women's division to where it is now.
Hey, Ronnie, Jerry Lawler was a big fan of the Ho Train.
In
The
this episode, he admitted it. He admitted wholeheartedly he was the biggest fan of the Ho Train.
And he's a big fan of Deborah McMichael, which is where the term puppies come from.
Yes.
It didn't come from Sable like everybody thinks.
Right.
It came from Deborah's puppies, because at that one time that you could she wore that business suit. And you could see her fucking cleavage, and he's like, "Puppies!" It's just very the King
there was
Lawler,
there was also a poster out there of her being topless and just holding a couple of puppies.
Yeah. So WCW tries to respond to this, because now women are starting to come into WWE, and not only are they bringing in sex appeal, but now they're starting to wrestle. Mm-hmm. In fact, during the time, a little bit before Sable really came into the picture, WCW brought out the Nitro Girls. It was the response to what was happening in WWE. And I'm not going to pose a question. I just want to get y'all's guys' thoughts on it. Me, personally, I did not see the point of having women cheerleaders in a wrestling show.
I think when Eric Bischoff explained it, because you got to remember, with WCW, they could only do so much. They were only allowed to do so much. They're like, okay, well, you can't have bra and panties matches. You can't do this. You can't do that. What is the one thing that I can do? Cheerleaders.
Right.
Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. I mean, they're the most celebrated cheerleaders of all time. I mean, everybody thinks that, whatever. I don't give a shit. But
Eric also sat there and said that he was tired of seeing the woman valet, and nobody was yet interested in the woman wrestler.
He didn't like the woman valet.
Right. He was tired of that idea.
And realistically, he wasn't sold on women's wrestling.
Right.
Because it came down to the athleticism. A big part of that.
Athleticism and tempo of the matches. Because again, women, I'm not saying that women can't fucking wrestle people. They are slower than men. It's just
They're
one
more
of
methodical.
those things. They are slower. They are slower.
Right, which is why a lot of times, like I even pointed out, even on a really good like Sasha versus Charlotte match,
you can see how slow it is.
You can see the slow into the elbow, the slow into the kick. It's very more, it's slowed down because it's easier for a woman to get hurt in that kind of environment.
It sucks to say that, but that is the honest to God's truth.
And that's not saying anything bad. I mean, that actually, I think people always kind of misconstrue that. That's for us, like as wrestling fans, that's a sign of courage that you're willing to go out there and do that kind of stuff. And we always give props to women for going out there. Now, granted, we may not like their wrestling style, we may not like their character, we may hate the way that they're booked. But that doesn't take away the fact we respect the fact that they put their bodies on the line to go into the ring. Now, WWE, though, is making very big strides at this point. Sable comes into the picture. Mentioned Playboy. She gets on the cover of Playboy magazine and literally brings the fucking WWE into mainstream. Mm-hmm. And one of the most hot Playboys ever.
But I think Tori Wilson's outsold hers, and then Chyna's outsold Tori Wilson's.
Right, and and then it was at this point that they started showcasing. Now, granted, Sable's wrestling was not very good.
Oh my God! Don't get me fucking started.
Okay, it wasn't very good. But we had progressed enough to this point that we got the reintroduction of the women's championship.
Mm-hmm.
But she wasn't the first women's champion.
No, it was actually Jacqueline.
Which,
And
if
which-
you want to call this company racist, just take a look at that.
Again, people need to stop saying that fucking shit right off the top, too. Go ahead.
Well, like it's the whole thing. Like, there's never been a black champion. Booker T was. Did they forget Booker T? That's what I always say. It's like, did you forget fucking Booker T
No. Come on.
or something? But anyway,
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
so they also had factions like DX, where China was very prominent. China also really spearheaded a lot of things. She was the first woman to ever be in the Royal Rumble and competed. She won the Intercontinental Championship from Jeff Jarrett.
Yep.
The first and only woman
Yeah.
to ever be Intercontinental Champion on WWE. Let that sink in.
She was also the first and ever undefeated women's champion.
Exactly.
That's right. She
And-
never lost a women's match, did she?
Nope.
Yeah, she did.
Not with a title involved.
But she lost. She lost.
Now,
Go
it has
ahead.
nothing to do with the episode. But the fact that this woman is not in the fucking Hall of Fame yet, which we all know is a fucking gimmick thing anyway, but the fact that she's not in the fucking Hall of Fame yet is fucking disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
For the amount of shit that China did for the fucking business, for her not to, for Beth Phoenix to go in before China is damn insulting. I'm not disrespecting. Beth Phoenix had an amazing career. Okay, she was essentially China 2.0.
Yes.
But let's be frank, she's a copycat of China,
Yeah.
just with blonde hair.
And shorter.
I don't know about that.
And she was shorter.
She was a little bit short, but like they built her up as this Amazonian woman, like the Glamazon.
And she was in the Royal Rumble.
And she was in the Royal Rumble. Like, she competed with men, like the whole thing with her and Santino Marella. But anyway. So,
But I'm gonna boldly say this, with them not only opening the lines of actually speaking about her more often now, and giving her stuff like this on the network where she is one of the main topics of an episode of something. I think they're getting ready to actually put her within the Hall of Fame very soon.
Well, this episode really wasn't a focus on her at all.
It wasn't, no, but you know what? She was mentioned.
Yeah.
right, she was. In fact, her voice, she did a few of the voiceover. I recognized that there were some things that, there were a few lines where it was actually China talking. So anyway, now we're getting into kind of the later part. By this time, we already know who was going to win the war.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the rest of this episode was really just kind of furthering on how far the progression of women came along. Around this time is when Trish Stratus came in, and she came in as a valet to begin with, but quickly, and she said the line of, okay, you see me in the bikini, now watch what I do.
Right.
And really you started seeing the progression of women's wrestling really coming into its own. Whereas Nitro was just barely starting to catch up, where they started trying to introduce these Nitro girls as their own stars, but these women couldn't wrestle.
No.
Correct.
No, they were the Sunny without the wrestling part.
Right. Now, the question I have, and it's an obvious answer, but I ask it anyway. Did WCW really drop the ball when it came to the women?
Oh, fuck yeah. WCW had no fucking clue what the hell they could do with the women at all.
Well, if you remember at the end, you was it Booker T that said it? You don't remember a Miss Hancock. You
Yeah.
remember a Stacy Keibler.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, look at Stacy Keibler, and look at Tori Wilson. They came
Right.
from WCW. Look at where their careers went.
Right.
Yeah,
Hey.
they both started as valets and just these little bimbos that were in the corner, basically.
I think they're gonna get into the Hall of Fame sooner or later.
Now, the episode kind of wraps up with one of the reasons why I say that people thinking that the Attitude Era was a bad time for women and there were no women first. Clearly, through this episode, we've demonstrated there were a lot of women first during this time period. But the major one that sticks out, where they seem to always, where WWE today seems to always want to tout out, be the first time ever, the first ever night on a Monday Night Raw, Lita and Trish Stratus main eventing Monday Night Raw, and was one of the better Raws that year.
Yep, but that, to be honest with you, I think the Attitude Era was over then.
And by that time, yes. And they really kind of got into stuff that kind of happened afterwards, because they talk about Stephanie McMahon, and the Attitude Era was still going on, but the war was already over.
Right.
Pretty much at this point. Me personally, when it comes to what we get today and what we had back then, I like the fact that the women are taken more seriously today.
Mm-hmm.
But I do kind of miss that sort of style that they had back in the Attitude Era.
Yep.
To be more edgy, yes.
To be more edgy, to have these, you don't see these these love interest storylines as much as you do anymore.
Yeah, you don't see them at all anymore.
You don't see it at all. And that was actually kind of one of the entertaining parts about it.
Yes.
I mean, like, they even briefly touched on, like, Val Venus and the Godfather, the whole train. Godfather didn't hardly do shit in the WWE, but he's most noticed for that fucking train.
That is true.
Well, that's because they took so long to transition him from Papa Shango to the Godfather.
Right, and so I like, I don't not hate the women the way they are today. I think that now I disagree with the all women's pay-per-view. I don't think it's going to do very well. But I might be surprised. I mean, you never know until you actually see it. I wouldn't want to see them have their own show.
They're not ready for it.
They're not
ready for it. But part of me still kind of like, I think the reason why a lot of us, a lot of the fans today really can't get behind the way, because that was the other distinction that I really drew away from this, is, yeah, the content was edgier. The content might have been exploitive to some people, but you really got behind these women.
You did.
You don't see that today.
Not at all.
I mean, we're talking Sable, as bad as she was in the ring, got fucking monster level pops.
Yeah.
Trish Stratus, Lita, Chyna, monster pops. Almost to the level of the likes of Stone Cold and The Rock and Mankind and The Undertaker.
Mm-hmm. You're correct.
You don't see that today.
I mean, you do. They have the opportunity, but they fucked it up with Becky. I'm telling you right fucking now, if Becky would have won that fucking title, the roof would have came off that fucking
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But that's my point, is that they won't book these women like they did back then. You actually really wanted to see. You couldn't wait to see what happened.
Yeah.
Now, what you see today is, oh, okay, Charlotte and Becky are going to be in a feud. They're probably going to fuck this up. Oh, Sasha and Bayley ain't fucking turned on each other yet? That's no fucking surprise. And they wonder why a lot of time, and I almost wonder why WWE hasn't figured it out, that a lot of these fans, especially the ones that watch the TV, the women's matches are often referred to as the P-break match.
Usually, yeah.
Name me one fucking time in the Attitude Era where a women's match was considered the P-break match.
For me,
don't worry, I'll wait.
No. For me, when Sable wrestled, I could not fucking stand watching her.
Well, I mean, yeah,
I
but
walked away. She's garbage.
But you got what I meant.
I do know what you mean. When it came to Lita and Trish, I was glued to the set.
Right. And this was the bad era for women?
No, the bad era for women is right now. I'm sorry. Yes, we have some of the most talented women on the fucking planet part of this roster right now. But one, they're not being booked properly. Two, they're not getting the right stories. And three, they're just some of them are just flat out fucking lazy in the ring.
Right.
I will say this. I think where people are saying it's bad for them was having them being stuck in bras and panty matches.
The over-sexualization.
Fucking mud wrestling matches and the over-sexualization. And that all comes down to the feminist movement, which isn't even a feminist movement.
No, it's women who are fucking butthurt that they got broken up by a fucking man that they thought was going to be number one for the rest of their lives.
Well, you know, when people bring, I know for me, when people bring that up to me, well, back then they had bra and panties matches and the mud matches and yada yada, the nightgown contest, whatever. I always sit there and said, okay, number one, at this time, the feminist movement and the equal rights movement was in full swing.
Yeah.
And you also have to remember that the wrestlers at the time had a lot of pull with their character.
And they weren't afraid to speak up about it, too.
That's true.
I would think that if the women did not want to do it, they wouldn't have done it. And again, it goes back to the point that Trish made. It was about getting eyes on them.
Yep.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I'm totally in agreement with you. I'm just making a point that is where people are saying the women were treated horribly.
Right. And in some instances, yes, they were. I mean, there's been well-documented cases of this.
Right.
But for the most part, realistically, it was that raciness and the bra and panty and the mud wrestling is what led to the fans taking these women seriously. This is the point that I was going to make, the comparison that I wanted to make between now and then. Are the women today more talented and some of the most talented athletes we have ever seen? Yes.
Yes.
Hands down. I would take an Attitude Era woman more seriously than anybody on the roster right now. With maybe the exception of Ronda.
I would definitely take the exception of Ronda because of the fact that she was actually trained to fight. Not just she's not trained to wrestle. No, she is trained to fight. So she can literally kill you.
I will throw Asuka in there as well.
Asuka, yeah. Well, I have a little bit with the way WWE has booked her.
I understand, but I'd still throw her into that category.
Right? No, it's a fair point, and one that I could easily. I could easily say you'd have a pretty solid argument for.
Because you got to look at her entire career, not just what they're doing with her in the WWE.
Right. So, But even still, that's two examples of women that we would take seriously. When you look back at the Attitude Era, Jacqueline, Trish Stratus, Lita, Sable to a certain extent.
No, I wouldn't even throw her into that.
I could do more wrestling moves with just my pinky than Sable could do with her entire in-ring ability.
I could do a dick flip.
Luna! Fucking Luna!
Yes.
Luna was fucking amazing! I love Luna! There's 5 women just off the top of my head. If you keep letting me dig, I can probably give you another 5.
I could. Natty Ronnie brings up a good point. Natty is another one. I can say Natty.
Yes, she was the only woman to have ever trained in the dungeon.
Right, and that's the thing. It always goes back to the same thing that we always sit there and talk about with this stuff. When it comes to these episodes, it's all about the story. Natty's story could be so much more than what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You're correct.
It's been so long. I honestly think that people have forgotten that she was the only woman to go through the Heart Dungeon.
Yeah.
You realize what a gold mine of a story that is?
Oh, yeah.
WWE drops the ball. They don't think about these things. They're more worried about pushing their agenda with the... See, this is at all, and I'm gonna fucking say it. It's all about fucking Roman Reigns.
Right.
They focus more on one thing, and they could be telling... They have 32 fucking writers on fucking Raw.
Mm-hmm.
I found that out the other day. They have 32 fucking writers on Raw. Are you serious? You have 32 writers on Raw and you can't come up with one fucking story for any one of your fucking women. They almost have one writer for every feud that they could fucking do and don't fucking do it.
Right. And that goes back to the thing. If people really want to complain, they're more about men now than they were in the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, and I know I keep rehashing this point, but yeah, they may have had bra and panty matches and mud wrestling, but guess what? They were also part of some really good stories.
Yes, they were.
I mean, fucking Lita had her front teeth knocked out in a tag match with Chyna. Yes, because she was pulled off of the ring apron and smashed her face on the ring apron, knocked her 2 front teeth out, but she finished the match.
Was she wrestling against Chyna then?
She was tag teaming with Chyna because that was what Chyna's way of getting her assessment of Lita to be able to face Lita for the women's championship.
Oh, they had that.
It was that storyline.
But didn't she squash Lita anyway?
Yeah, she did. But it's still the fact of the matter is, Lita knocked out her front fucking teeth and finished the match. You're not going to get that out of these women today. Fucking Nikki Bella knocked out a fucking molar that you can't even fucking see. And then she's all upset and goes to John, I lost a tooth, oh my god, I'm hideous, don't look at me! Are you fucking kidding me? It was on Total Bellas. It was caught on camera, that behavior.
Well, and what's funny is really think back on it now. You didn't see that many botches back then either.
That's because they were hidden.
They were hidden than what they can do now.
The wrestling was considered a struggle. It wasn't considered a ballet back then.
Right.
Right. And so a lot of times the botches just kind of look like a part of the match.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes back to my point, is that, to me, the wrestling back then was a lot better, especially with the women. Yeah, it was slower matches, but you still didn't really see... If you did see a botch, you didn't really know it was a botch.
Right.
They were
now, you can see a botched... Fucking Brie fucking had a fucking horrific one.
Twice.
On Raw.
Twice.
Who?
Brie
Twice.
Oh,
when she did the
Monday?
suicide dive.
Monday?
Yeah. When she did the suicide dive. Both times.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that one too.
That was in the main event on Raw that her and
Trish had.
did.
That was the night she almost broke her neck.
Yep.
Yep.
She ended up winning the title, and then didn't she have to relinquish the title because...
Not right away.
Okay. But didn't she end up having to because it started becoming a problem for her?
I believe so, yes.
So, I think the moral of the whole thing is that the more that I know for me is the more that I look back at what we used to get as a product compared to what we have today, ladies and gentlemen, I'd be the type of person that I could completely stop watching the product and go back and watch the Attitude Era and have content for probably the next 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And get more enjoyment out of stuff that I've already seen, that I know happens, and still get more enjoyment. That's the one thing I can say about the network. You know, there's been times where, like, I'm sitting there trying to find something to watch. I'll go back and watch an old match. I know the outcome, but the storytelling was so good back then that now, as a more enlightened fan, going back and watching this stuff, I'm now finding appreciation in other things. How did they execute this story? Okay, I see why they made that booking decision.
Right.
Yep.
You start really. It's kind of like watching an old Looney Tunes cartoon. When you were a kid, you just laughed because fucking Bugs Bunny was whacking Elmer Fudd over the head.
Right.
But as you got older, you started noticing the more adult jokes hitting in the cartoon.
Yep.
So it's kind of the same concept. And the thing that I fear is, what are people going to be like when it's 20 years from now? When we go back and watch the stuff that we're watching now?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be happy.
They're not going to be happy.
The teenagers that are watching this product now and enjoying it now are going to look back at it as an adult and go, what the fuck was I thinking?
Hey, Aaron, I could give two fucking shits if Zelina Vega gets concussed. I fucking can't stand her. She annoys the shit out of me. Sorry.
So, again, a very straightforward episode. It was mostly the history. In fact, they went a little bit past the Monday Night War. I kind of didn't understand that, but it's okay.
Well, they had to get Stephanie in on there.
They had to get Stephanie in. They had to get Trish and Lita in because Lita came in at the end of the Attitude Era.
Right. And realistically, the Lita and Trish Stratus match was at the very cusp end of the Monday Night War. In fact, it was pretty much over at that point.
It was over. It was in 2004. Right.
And so, with that being said, overall, I thought it was a good episode. Again, I go back to my original point, is that it makes me miss those times more than anything else. Because it was just so good back then. It was good content back then.
It was. But
JP,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to actually get your final thoughts on it and what you thought about the episode and anything that you'd like to add.
I'm going to say this, and I rehash this every single time. The reason that we started doing this series of shows is I want you to understand we're never going back to the Attitude Era, and one of the problems that we have today in WWE is everybody wants the Attitude Era back. You're not getting it. So that's why you're always seeing, and I'm going to throw their names out there, Joe Cronin, JD, and other people. They want Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. You've got to let go of the past.
Right.
The WWE cannot move forward, or will not move forward, unless you move past these nostalgia acts. Because that's all they are. The Undertaker isn't the Undertaker from the Attitude Era. He's not the Undertaker from 5-6 years ago. Shawn Michaels can barely fucking walk. His back is destroyed. So to put him in a match with the Undertaker, it'd look like you might as well give both of them a fucking walker and have them walk around the fucking ring a couple of times. Because that's all it is. Now, if they could still go, I would say let them go. But here's my problem with that. Again, I say, and I tweeted it out, everybody's always bitching, how come you're not pushing a Ty Dillinger? How come you're not pushing a Rusev? How come you're not doing a this? How come you're not doing a that? Because you all want to see fucking Shawn Michaels and the fucking Undertaker wrestling a match that's not going to fucking happen. And so help me God if it does, people are just never going to fucking, their WWE just will never move past their nostalgia acts. Because they don't know how to push the talent they have now.
No. Heather, what are your final thoughts on it?
I enjoyed the episode. I will say that.
Yeah, it was for it to be about Diva. Like I said, this show made me miss what I used to see.
Mm-hmm. But because I'm okay with that, and if you want to see it, like I said, you have the network.
Right, and that was my point. That's the point, is that we can go back and watch this stuff. But let's start pushing for the future. Otherwise, we're never going to get good content again.
Nope.
Heather, what are your final thoughts on this episode?
Well, to touch on further with what JP was saying, people were calling the Hardy Boys a nostalgia act when they first came back. As
this
the
is
Hardy
very
Boys.
true.
They were a nostalgia act. We don't want to see this. We want to see the broken gimmick. Okay.
Exactly.
You got the broken gimmick. Now you want to go back again and sit there and say, "Oh, we want a nostalgia act now." Make up your fucking mind, people.
Right.
Because it is big. As much as we sit there and say that the WWE is not listening to their fans, they are listening to their fans. It's just we as fans change our minds so much that they got tired of trying to keep up with us, and now they're going to sit there and just go, "Fuck you! We're doing what we want to do now."
Yep.
And what they want to do is garbage. Because it's the opposite of what we want.
Right.
So, unfortunately, this episode was great, and it showed a great example of, as Drew McIntyre has tweeted out before, talent not being complacent.
Yeah, the talent wasn't complacent back then.
Right.
Whereas they are complacent. Oh, you want to give me this storyline? Fine, whatever. That works for me. I'm getting paid. I don't care.
And with that, guys, that's pretty much the episode. We are going. I want to go over some programming notes with channels and stuff. I told everybody that September 15th is when I would be returning to my channel. Plans have changed. The family member that was supposed to come this weekend is not going to be coming until next month. So, with that being said, I'm moving up the date to this Saturday. So, I will actually be going live this Saturday from my channel at Johnny Sinizter on YouTube. You guys are more than welcome to come and hang out. We're just going to be streaming video game plays. I'm going to be doing Skyrim again. God knows I've tried doing that like 30 times already. But for real this time, we're going to sit down. We're going to do a proper playthrough for you guys. Other than that, we're going to have This Week in Wrestling. Are you doing Raging Ink tonight, Heather?
I am indeed.
Yeah, so we're going to we'll probably be hopping over there for a little bit over at her channel. Be sure to go check her out and all that good stuff. When is our next pay-per-view?
16th.
The 16th, so next weekend.
Yep, it's Hell in a Cell.
Will be Hell in a Cell. And then October is going to be a busy freaking month for pay-per-views. I think we're getting 2.
Yes, the 6th, I believe it is the Super Showdown. And then the 28th is the Evolution pay-per-view.
So, as always, guys, be sure to tune in for our live reaction reviews on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then on Sundays and sometimes Saturday if there's an NXT takeover for our pay-per-view live reaction and review. We do hope, and just take a quick moment. I know this is running a little bit short, but I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank each and every one of you watching right now. Without your guys' support, we wouldn't be doing this, because this is actually a lot of fun for us. We do this for fun, and your constant support and encouragement for us to keep doing what we're doing is always greatly appreciated, and we love each and every one of you. Even you, Aaron Reed.
I will make a point out here. Yes, the Super Showdown, since it is in Australia, it is airing live at 5 in the morning our time.
On Saturday.
We are not doing it live. No.
We will do a live reaction to it, but we'll all get together and we'll
do it at a more appropriate time.
I ain't getting up until 5 o'clock in the morning just to fucking give you guys content. That's fucking crazy talk, man.
What's our next episode this week? I'm the host tonight, and I should know what the fuck.
I don't know. It's the Sting Undertaker episode next.
It might be, because I know that's coming.
Let me go look that up real quick.
While you're doing that, I'm going to give out programming note. It is opening football season this weekend. So Sunday, I am going to be streaming the Packers game on Sunday night. So do join, and you will watch me rage like a motherfucker. And it'll probably be raging. I'll be throwing my hat and shit. I will let you know what happened earlier on in the day, and we do a little pre-show. And then we will be doing, me and Bobbitt will be doing live and Heather, of course, we'll be doing live reactions. If Johnny wants to join, he's more than welcome to. Live reactions to, we're gonna do the live stream. I'm gonna try to stream all 16 games. I don't think that's gonna happen, but I'll try. Because there's going to be times where I'm just going to want to sit and watch the game. But
not only that, sometimes the games are during the week while you're at work.
And I will probably do maybe a Ravens game if they show up. And if Bobbitt wants me to do a Panthers game, I might do that. We'll see. But keep that in mind. I have that planned. And I do want to point out one thing. Dan Rex, thank you for the question. He asked me a question today. And it was, where is Shane McMahon, and why has he been off TV? Why did he leave? As of right now, I don't think he actually left. But I will say this, Bob did tell me that he has his own business. However, that doesn't mean that he still is the commissioner of SmackDown. There's just right now no storylines for him. So if you guys have a question, we'll shout it out after the show, Monday night, Tuesday night, whatever. You ask a question, and I'll try to answer it the best way I know how.
Our DMs are always open, so definitely jump on in there and ask us any questions you got.
And our next episode is going to be the War Goes Mainstream. So we'll have a lot to do with Stone Cold, Mike Tyson, all that stuff with the celebrity. Probably it's going to be more of the celebrity stuff. Yep. So that will be next week, guys. And you guys have anything else before we wrap it up here?
No. I'm good, man.
Well, with that, guys, that's going to do it for us here on Wrestling Memories. Thank you guys again so much for coming out. We greatly appreciate it. Be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe button. Hit the bell icon, because that's the only way YouTube lets you know that we are live. So don't miss another episode. We'll be back here same time next week. And as always, I'm Johnny Sinizter, your host for Wrestling Memories. Thank you guys so much again. We'll see you over at the Tattoo Mistress channel for Raging Inc. You guys have a good night. Bye-bye now.
Night, guys.